guys, it's Angie. Welcome to Daily Dabble, day 5. We've made it through a whole week. I can't even believe that. So happy Friday. I'm sorry my video is a little bit late today, but better late than never. Okay, so we are down to the nitty gritty in your box, and you should only have a couple pieces of drawing paper left and this piece of tinfoil that you've probably been wondering, what in the world is that for? And you're about to find out. So you should have your empty box, and we actually do need your empty box today. So go ahead and grab your empty box and your foil and some drawing paper, whatever, and if you have some extra pieces laying around the house, feel free to grab them, and also a pencil. Now, if you're watching the video and you didn't get to come in and get a supply kit, but I will give you some tips on what you can do if you don't have these supplies. All right, we'll go ahead and gather your things, and we're going to get started. It's ready to go. Right here in the camera, you're just going to see my paper. I've got it sitting in my cardboard box, and then I have a pencil. And my foil's kind of sitting to the side. We'll get that in just a little bit. But what we want to do first is we're going to play around with doing some fish drawings, okay? So on just a spare piece of paper that you have, we are going to go ahead and just think of some fun ways to draw fish. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is kind of like an almond shape, kind of a curved line down and then a curved line up, sort of like a frown and then a smile. And that's a great shape for a fish body, a little fish mouth, fish eye. We can do a fun little fin on the back, side fin, and then, you know, maybe some scales just for a fun little detail. Okay, so it could be as simple as that, okay? Some other shapes, let's make a fish that's a little chunkier. Maybe it's like making a rectangle with curved edges. How's that for a fish body? He's kind of funny. And then after you draw your fish, you can just come up with some fun little things to add to give it a little personality. Maybe some fun little fins like this. So you can follow along with the fish I'm drawing, maybe some bubbles. You can also come up with some of your own ideas for how to draw fish. But the best way to start is just to come up with a simple shape. I'm going to go with a circle on this one. So what we're doing right now is we're kind of practicing some different ideas before we move on to using our foil. Because what we're going to do, after you practice some fish ideas, then you're going to pick one that you really, really like. And then we're going to wind up transferring that onto your foil. So I have 3 pretty good ideas right here. And I really think this one right here is my favorite. So after you've practiced drawing some fish, draw at least 3. And then, because you might draw one and think, oh, that's perfect. But then the more you draw and the more you draw, you might come up with even better ideas than you had in the first place, which is always a nice surprise. So I really like fish number 2 here that I drew, so I'm going to choose that one to go with. But you guys take some time, doodle some fish, and then decide which one that you really like the best. And once you have decided which one is your best fish, then I want you to take another sheet of paper. And we're going to be using this paper to draw your favorite fish on in just a little bit, okay? So take some time, doodle your fish, and choose your favorite one. All right, so our next step is whatever piece of paper that you have, you are going to take your foil and put it in the corner of your paper. Line it up just like that, okay? And then you're going to take your pencil and you're actually going to trace around your foil piece because you want the fish drawing that you make to be the same size as the foil. All right? So there's that. We know how big our foil piece is, so we know how big we want to draw our fish. And if you remember, I liked this guy right here. So I'm just going to redraw. Now, sometimes when I'm drawing, I like to make sure that I draw nice and light. That way, if I make mistakes and I want to fix them, it's easier to erase it. And notice how I used up this whole entire space. So when you're drawing, try to use all that space. You don't want to do some teeny tiny little fish in the middle of all this space. So make sure you draw nice and big. If you're looking at it though thinking, oh, maybe I did draw a little too small, then you can add a couple fish friends in there with this fish. Okay, now here comes the fun part. We're going to take our foil, and there is a silver side and a gold side, but it doesn't really matter which side you choose to use. And what you're going to do is you are going to slide that foil right underneath your drawing. Try to make sure that it matches up, okay? And if you have some tape at home that you could use to hold this down so nothing moves, that might help. If you don't have tape, maybe just ask a sibling or an adult in the house to kind of help you hold it down while you do this. Now, it's really important that we have our foil and our paper sitting in our box because that's a nice soft surface. And what we're going to do, you're going to trace back over your drawing. And you're going to need to press down kind of hard. You don't want to push down so hard that you break your pencil lead. But as we are drawing and pressing down nice and hard, what do you think is happening? You're going to find out pretty soon. But what we're doing is we're making a copy of this picture in our foil. So as we press down with our pencil, we're pressing into the foil. And it's going to make these marks in the foil. Wherever you press down with your pencil, it's going to create lines in your foil. So it's really important that you don't pick up your paper and peek, because if you do, you might not get it put down in the same spot again. And then it'll be really hard to get your fish looking right on the foil. So try not to lift it up and peek. See, I missed my line a little bit there, but that's okay. Really, our first drawing is just a good guideline for us. Okay, so now all I have left to do is the bubbles. All right, so let's see what happens. If I take my paper off, how cool is that? So now you have a copy of that drawing in the foil. But we are not done yet, okay? So the cool thing about this foil is that you can create lots of different textures. Because we were pressing down on the foil, all of the lines went down into the foil. But what if I wanted something to pop up out of this foil? Well, let's say I wanted my bubbles to pop up. So if I flip this over and I take my pencil and I just start filling that area in with this pencil. Now you want to press firmly, but you don't want to do this too hard, okay? This foil is pretty sturdy, but it will tear if you press down too hard. Okay, so let's turn it over and see what's happening. All right, so now we see that whenever we push on the foil from the back, it makes things kind of pop out. And just to make it look even more 3D, I'm going to go back around these. Okay, so you guys get the idea. If you work on it from the back, things are going to pop out. And then if you work on it from the front and press down, things will sink down in. So I'll work on this part of the eye. So even though we made certain lines on this fish, you can also start to just add textures and details anywhere you want. Okay, you don't have to follow the rules of where your drawing was. You can keep working on this as you get ideas. There's that. So what if I do some scales on this guy? Scales are really fun to do. It's just like doing a bunch of letter M's, if you've got to turn this way anyway. So I can create all of this texture by making scales. I can do another row of scales. But you might have your own ideas about how to make a scale pattern on your fish. And as always, it is a good thing for yours to look a little bit different than mine, not a bad thing. That's the fun part of creating, is everybody can do things their own way. All right, so now I've got some scales on my fish. I'm gonna turn my camera off and just kind of keep going for a little bit. And you guys do the same, and then we'll see what other kind of textures and patterns I can make on this. Okay, so now I have lots of textures and patterns on my foil. I did put one little hole in there, but that's okay. I got a little too excited. It happens. So you can leave it just like this if you want to, and it looks amazing. But you can also, if you have permanent markers at your house, you can color on it with permanent markers. If you use washable markers, they're probably just gonna smudge a whole lot. So I wouldn't recommend using those types of markers, but permanent markers look really nice on this foil. Okay, so you can color this guy in if you want to. That is kind of an option for you. But he also looks really great on the gold side too. And if you wanted to color on the gold side, you could color on the gold side. So this is probably something that most of you have never done before. And I think it's really important to remember that when you're doing something for the first time, sometimes it doesn't always turn out exactly the way you wanted it to. But one of the most important things for me is that you guys try making art with different types of materials. So hopefully you enjoyed this new experience, and I can't wait to see pictures of your fish. All right, I did say I was going to give some suggestions for those of you watching that maybe don't have foil tooling, or for those of you that do have the supply kit, if you really liked doing this but you don't have any foil left, here's another option. So if you have a piece of cardboard, which I have right here, then you can take some yarn and some glue, and if you glue down yarn in a shape or design, just imagine I've got glue on here. There's kind of a fish shape. If you glue this down, kind of snip off your yarn, keep adding yarn, and basically draw a picture with your yarn. And then if you take the kind of tin foil that you find laying around your house and just lay it over top of that after the glue's dried, let the glue dry, you're going to lay foil on top of it and just kind of press down. And when you do that, all of the spots where you had yarn are going to kind of be popping up. So after you've done that, then you have a textured design from your yarn drawing, and you can go and use those Sharpies and color that in. So that is a modification you can do if you don't have tooling foil. Okay, so that is it for day 5. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you've been able to join me every day this week. If you loved it and you want to do it again, I'll be having Daily Dabble week 2 starting on Monday, and I do have supply kits available at the studio if you would like to pick up your supplies, or you can find a list of the supplies on the Facebook event. Now, your challenge for today. You should have your box left over, and you should have maybe some paint left over, some yarn scraps, whatever you have left over from your supply kit. I would love for you to create an original piece of art that you come up with on your own. You might use your paint and do a painting on this, on your cardboard box, and then add some yarn to it for texture. Anything that you want to do, go for it. Even if you have some extra art supplies laying around at home that you'd like to incorporate into your artwork, there are no rules. Anything goes. So have fun creating, and hopefully I see you next week. Bye, guys.